Thanks for joining us on a CX Moment. This weekly series is where we chat with companies about what's happening with their business, their support centers, and with their customer experience. If you want to catch up on any of our previous episodes, and we've been doing quite a few of these, check out our Zendesk YouTube channel, and you can find our conversations with companies like Etsy, Slack, Freshly, Box, and others. I'm Sarah Reed from Zendesk, and today we're joined by Nick Martin, the Customer Experience Manager for Harry's. And as you all know from your own shelter-in-place experiences, self-care is taking on some renewed importance. This 30 minutes goes by so fast, so ask your questions in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer them all. I should also mention that Nick is responsible for QA and training, so I know there's going to be a lot of questions around that. You'll also see a short poll about 5 minutes before the program ends. If you could, please take a moment to share your feedback, because we so appreciate it. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you are typically based out of New York, is that right?
Yes, our headquarters is right in Soho in downtown New York.
That's pretty fabulous. And where are most of your employees located? Are they actually in the city, or are they distributed elsewhere?
So most of Harry's employees are in the city. In terms of our customer experience team, we actually have about a 50% split by remote workforce, but within the tri-state area, we feel that there's some cultural connection with the ability to have an event or some sort of commutability. So half of our team is remote, half of it is right in the office.
So half of your team was prepared for this, and half of your team is figuring it out like the rest of us.
Yes, maybe, but because half of our team was remote, our full team had to be prepared for this, especially with a lot of the technology and the engagement initiatives that we do. So in terms of the operating model for our customer experience team, I think we were prepared to be able to still reach our customers every single day when this happened.
And you've been with Harry's for over 5 years, is that correct?
Yeah, I keep saying 6 when I talk to people because I get to round up, which feels great. Yes, over 5 years. I actually started as a frontline associate and then went on to build our quality program, and then moved over to our operational and people management side and had a few different positions there. And then most recently, right about now, I've taken over management of our quality training and development program. So I've seen a few different sides of it.
Well, and I personally just love the story because it's such a great example of no one ever decides that no one ever says, I want a career in customer support, right? But once you get a taste of it for a good company that has great values and amazing support, it can be a life-changing career. And it sounds like you're a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I'm just surrounded by a great team, and that's really pulled my motivation to continue on within the support org.
So having been with Harry's for almost 6 years, if we're going to round up, you've seen a lot of changes, not just in the company, but in the business and the industry. Mm-hmm. Anything could have prepared you for what we're currently going through?
Yeah. So yes, actually, I would say that there's been micro moments in terms of our support org that you're pulling a lot of the same levers, leaning on the same technology, and focusing in on the same employee experience. It's just a different scale right now. So I can think of 3 to 4 different times throughout our org where a pivot happened or some external force happened where we needed to pivot ourselves. It's just been a little bit bigger right now.
A little bit bigger, I like that. But I think you're spot on. You know, we in support organizations, we're unusually prepared for ththings that we can't anticipate. You know, you can't anticipate massive weather delays. You can't anticipate, just a team of people, unable to get to work depending on where they're located. So these are all things that we've figured out how to shuffle, shift, and move those levers as you described. So I'm curious if Harry's has had to do any business model changes throughout this, or if you've done any support model changes to handle the differences in your volume and your activity right now.
Yeah, in terms of our business model, I can't speak too highly of it, but we've changed some things with our employees and customers to make sure that they have support during this time. For example, in March, we added a crisis text line number to our homepage on harrys.com, and we added this also to all of our customer experience interactions in the signature. So anyone that talks to my team is getting this crisis text line number. And that's really important for our customers so they know during this time of crisis that there is someone that you could reach out to. And we pivoted a lot of our emails and social content to focus on our mental health nonprofit partners.
Hmm.
I actually looked up some results before our chat today, and the crisis text line number, as soon as we made those pivots, saw 4 times more people reaching out, which really proves that in this time of need, this was a great service. On top of that, I would say we've leaned in on the leadership team at Harry's has leaned in on implementing 2 mental health days to help really with our employees and their employee experience. We need to focus on the people right now, in my opinion, and that's been wonderful. For the support side of things, we have seen some volume increases at Harry's, and I think that matches the behavior that we're all experiencing right now. We're at home or a home, we're online a lot. Maybe that's just me, but I spend a lot of time online. And if you're at home and then you're online, then you're meeting our customer experience team where they already are on harrys.com. So it's just sort of natural that that behavior matches a small increase in our support right now.
Let's talk a bit about the crisis text line, because I think you're hitting on a few things that are really important right now. And well, one, Harry's has always been very strong on the social mission side. So it's not necessarily unusual that your organization would choose to focus on something so important as mental health. But walk me through the connection between a shaving company and men's mental health.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what you talked about earlier was very true, which was it's been a value of Harry's since the beginning. It's actually one of the reasons that I joined on Harry's about 5-6 years ago, and it's really important to us. I think as a men's care brand, which is what we are, a men's care and men's grooming brand, we think a lot about men and what it means to be a guy in this world right now. And we focus our giving efforts right now towards mental health. This issue, mental health, disproportionately impacts men, in a large part due to some of the outdated expectations of what it means to be a man, stoic, unfeeling, unflappable, and therefore unable to ask for help. And if you look at harrys.com at some of the stats that we include here, the consequences are very real. Men commit suicide at a rate that's 3.5 times higher than women do. And among specific communities, veterans, LGBTQ population, and young men, the risk is even higher. So we believe that focusing on an issue that we personally care about, but we also have like a direct impact with our customers that we serve every single day, it's just a great fit and has a real impact on the world.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there is also a correlation between self-care and grooming and our mental health. You know, that adage of, you know, how you feel impact, or how you look impacts how you feel. That's probably more like true than ever before right now. And maybe initially we took a few of our grooming practices, might have gone away. You know, I'll admit, I haven't been straightening the hair on the regular. I'm not always wearing makeup. It's like my husband has definitely not been shaving as frequently as he used to. So that impacts how we feel about ourselves and how we're also ready to go back out into the world, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, having a conversation about self-care is actually close to having a conversation about mental health, which is why this our giving model right now is such a good fit, because we can have both. And I think March proved that pretty well, both within our company and externally with our customers. We're just having that conversation more often, which is the start that men need right now.
I like that. And are you now noticing with some of the shelter in place orders lifting a bit? Are you noticing that purchases online are changing? Are the self-care products that people were buying 2 months ago, is that changing at all now?
You know, we've been pretty lucky. We've had a lot of you know, our sales remain pretty consistent across multiple categories throughout this crisis. I would say there's been an uptick in certain care products, such as bar soap. We have a bar soap with 4 different scents, and that's been an uptick. But we've been pretty lucky to see a pretty consistent sales across the categories.
And how about your customer support inquiries? Have they changed at all from before COVID-19 to now?
In volume, slightly. In the type, not so much. There have been some new customers where that conversation is just a little different than some of our customers that are maybe on a shave plan subscription and have been with us for a little bit. They might be interested in, what's the difference between what I used to shave with? What does the fig scent actually smell like? Which is, by the way, a super interesting challenge to talk about scent over a remote a remote interface where that's
Right.
phone or email or chat or whatever it is. So that's always been fun.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So one, how do you train support agents about something which seems so simple, like a scent? How do you train them when they aren't able to actually, get to that? They can't smell it themselves. So, or do you send product to them? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, we 100% get product in hand. I think that's extremely important, especially with a sensorial experience. Some of our shower or body products, our body wash, our body soap, our bar soap, sorry, face wash, and everything along those lines. Like that's really important to get into everyone's hands. And then we have a really great job of kind of providing, if you look at our Instagram right now, really good point. They have this amazing program where they asked us to submit a playlist, everyone within our company, a song to
Okay.
2 different scents. So the Stone bar soap, which is Stone is one of our scents, right? Make a playlist off that. And then our amazing creative team, like I got so jealous of them, created this like right? So then we have kind of this multi-dimensional playlist with this beautiful imagery that does a really good job. And then our copywriters do a really good job of just like describing where, what, and how this feels. And that's always great. And we train our team on having those conversations as well.
I love that. I see you have a Stone playlist, you have a Fig playlist.
Yep.
And what a fun way of getting your product out there, but also that's a self-service mechanism. And I don't think most people think of social media or Instagram as an opportunity to get their customers to self-service. Are you guys doing anything else in a similar way like that?
Self-service is interesting for us. We do use Zendesk Guide externally as our FAQ page, and that has been wonderful so far. I think the direct-to-consumer experience that we provide is important and part of the journey. So we try to have it as an option, but not try to push it or push anyone in that option too hard, really to make sure the customer gets to choose that experience, if that makes sense.
Well, your playlist is getting some attention, and I expect, with some of the comments coming in, and I expect you're going to have some new Instagram followers after all of this. And one of our listeners, David, has asked, after COVID hit, did you have to change any of your triggers or automations to address a new influx of questions or concerns?
Great question, David. So we have an inbound routing system that routes the type of contact that we're getting, and then we fire a different trigger for a different auto reply. So if you're contacting Harry's and saying, "What's Harry's?" you're going to get a different auto reply than you're contacting Harry's and saying, "I need to delay my shipment because maybe I've moved addresses because it's a hard time right now and I needed to move somewhere else, then that you're going to get a different auto reply. So we've adjusted those triggers pretty clearly to make sure that someone's getting the right auto reply. And then we've actually been a little bit more transparent with our customers with what's happening. So a really good example is we put some safeguarding initiatives in for our distribution employees. And that means that you're tracking. Everyone's used to getting that tracking pretty quickly. Everyone clicks,
Right.
not everyone. I know I click on the
Oh,
tracking
yeah,
instantly.
most of us do.
And just watch it slowly go, right?
Absolutely.
So the transparent moment for us was like, we need to put into those auto replies and maybe even our IVR, sort of some messaging that's saying, hey, by the way, this is the reason that tracking might be delayed. And that's been really helpful for us.
That is so important. And I've actually noticed that my husband and I had a trip coming up and we had to call the hotel. And you know, and I am usually not so happy about hitting an IVR right off the bat, but
Yep.
their IVR, it nailed it, where it was like, hey, we expect that you're calling about this. Here are the services in the hotel that are open. Here are the things that are not. You know, we're so sorry that you aren't going to experience, you know, our full experience here at the hotel. But if you have additional questions, and it was like, no, I don't. And it was having someone also say that they were sorry we weren't going to experience their hotel in their city meant so much in just that quick little 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And Heather, who's also listening, Heather has asked, you know, how do you build that type of empathy into your automated replies? You know, it's one thing to train our agents on being more empathetic, but how do you train your AI or your automation to do the same?
So it's a hard question. I think we lean very heavily into our voice, and that actually goes across all of our brand. So by the time, especially a customer that has been with us or had purchased us before reaches out to us, they're expecting that sort of neighborly type of experience, someone that you might like go across the street and ask, you know, their referral for or anything. So they're expecting that type of voice. If we keep that voice with our customer experience, that's important. So a really good example might be instead of, I'm so sorry for this inconvenience that it might have caused, right? Like that's just not our voice, and people read through that and it doesn't come off genuine. So that type of thing where we have to train our team, we also train the AI or the auto reply or the IVR to do that. It's a really good example. We also use actual people in our IVR, like there's actual people that you could get on the other side of the IVR that will be recording each of our IVRs, which is always a fun moment. Our hold music, our wait music, everything is recorded and done by our team. It just adds another level of genuine sort of personal connection.
Well, I think that's one of the, you know, product aside, that is one of the reasons why Harry's has been so successful, is because from the very beginning, you've come across as a very genuine and authentic brand. And you know, I know you can't speak for everyone, but is this an opportunity for brands to start to pivot how they approach their customers and perhaps start to build a different type of relationship with them?
You know, I can't like recommend for other brands, but I would say it is an opportunity. Harry's knows that our direct connection to our customers is what sets us apart from the other guys. So anytime we get a chance to hear from more customers, like we have been in the last couple of months, or just more people, other guys out there, we
Mm-hmm.
consider that a win. And that's on the business side of things. And then regarding our social mission, which we talked about earlier, I mentioned this, we're internally and customer facing having more conversations around mental health. So that's also great news. So yeah, I think there's a lot of optionality out there.
On the concept of the social mission, but now turning it a little bit internal, how are you ensuring that your agents and your support teams, whether it's, you know, anyone from training to Q&A to workforce management, how are you keeping them, their spirits up and that team building alive?
Yeah. Well, first, before we started sort of leaned into some of that tech optionality we talked about, sort of auto replies and IVR and everything like that, we wanted to do a lot of employee engagement and experience collection. So a lot of different surveys, a lot of one-on-one collection, a lot of town hall skip level meetings. What do you need to create your own environment for success? How are you feeling? And how can we do this together as a team? I guess the big concern right now is everyone jumps on these Zoom calls or whatever calls they are and gets instantly into work. And that's not how we want to run this. You're missing your water cooler moments with the people that are on your team, and that connection is super important. So we did that for a while, and then there's a ton of different initiatives we've been doing to make sure that there's engagement out there on our team. One of my favorite that I brag about a lot is we record our own podcast with our CX team. It's called Recorded for Quality Assurance. It's hosted, run, directed, artworked by our entire team. It is only for our team, and it's just such a good moment for like us as a team. This is our culture. You can listen to it when you're crushing emails by yourself and wherever town you're in right now, but you're still part of this amazing team.
So you do a podcast that is pulled together by your team.
Yes. So we have
And
our writer and our director and our host and the artwork and the sound engineering. Everything is our team.
that is a brilliant idea. How frequently does the podcast come out?
Right now it's bi-weekly. Every other week we get a new EP, is what the cool kids call it, episode.
And I'm going to just keep rolling with this for a minute because this is such a great idea. You know, one of the questions that came across was, how do you keep your culture alive, particularly with training and bringing on new hires right now? How do you ensure that they're getting the Harry's culture? And I would assume this is one really important factor of doing that, where people can listen to past episodes and fully understand what your team and the company is about.
Yeah, certainly. And I wouldn't claim that we have it all figured out for that onboarding culture. That's really, really difficult. But we've moved our onboarding to be able to be fully remote. We still have shadowing and reverse shadowing over different tech tools to be fully remote. And then we lean into a lot of what we've had beforehand. So different ways of engagement and kudos and recognition that have always been remote capable. We've leaned into those. So the pizza party has to go. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
We got to move to something different.
Well, and I think that's such an important thing to point out, in that, you know, in the first couple weeks after shelter in place really went into effect, I think a lot of us wanted to figure out a way of replicating what we did in our previous world and our new world. And a couple weeks of that turmoil, and you fully realize that that's just, it's not possible, and it's no longer what we need. And we really have to look at what's right for this moment in time, and probably for the unforeseeable future. But what we did before, it's okay to replace that.
Yeah, and that's important, especially if, I mean, Harry's, we're always pivoting, we're always growing, a very dynamic, hyper growth startup. So I think we had that culture already.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck if you didn't, because that's tough.
But I think in all of our industries, we're having to do that, including events. You know, I'm pretty used to putting on large, beautiful, in real life events, and that's just not going to be possible. And so pivoting into activities like this, where we still get to talk to people like you with a great story to tell, is probably more important now than, you know, us all getting together in a large format. I'm going to ask you to put your crystal ball in your hands for the moment, and because this is a question from a gentleman named Ben, and I love this question. He said, you mentioned there have been 3 to 4 moments where you've seen the spark of a larger scale shift. And how do you see COVID impacting customer experience long term? Even if it's just from a Harry's perspective.
That's a really great question. I think one thing that I'm seeing right now is this is about sort of volume management, your typical forecasting might be thrown out the window right now. If you imagined a post-lunch spike every day in one channel or one channel, that might be gone. I think we could lean a little bit more into asynchronous type of CX, which is something I've really wanted to do for messaging or anything along those lines. I would love to see that actually, that's the positive side of this. I'd love to see us go in that particular direction. um, yeah, I think that's like what I see as a crystal ball. It's really hard to look forward right now, as everyone knows, more than 1 week, but yeah.
Right. That's it. But I think that's a really great piece of advice in that, all of it, like we just got done talking about, the way you used to do things, probably not the way you should still be doing them. And forecasting is certainly one of them. Our lunch breaks are non-existent now, right? It's, and people are working in a different fashion with different hours where it works for them and their company. And so that could mean, I take that lunch or that dog break at 3 o'clock and I decide it's the right time to give you a call.
Yeah. And there's been some positive initiatives we've done also when I think about our parents on CX, where we've thought about different ways that we could change our schedule that used to be a little bit more rigid to make sure that that's something that fits with, this, I hate new normal, but new world we're in right now.
One of our listeners, Stephanie, has asked an intriguing question around, most contact centers try to reduce the volume that comes into their centers, right? It's, they're looking for ways of diverting that, where it sounds like you're almost wanting to engage with your customers regardless. Is that a true statement?
It's close to true. I would say overall that could be a value that we try to embrace. We actually proactively reach out on different regular basis from our customer experience team to collect that back. The majority of our products are actually customer driven. I could look at the precision trimmer on the back of our blade. That's something that customers asked for, and we were able to listen. And because we're vertically integrated into our factory through our company, and we were able to make that happen. I would say the breakdown is the type of contact. If you can think of what type of contact is not providing as much insight or helpful insight that could drive your company forward, that's the type of contact. Maybe you send a different auto reply. Maybe you serve a different channel. So modification for a shave plan, like I want to change the date. That's something that I want to make easier because I know customers, actually many, don't want to have to go up to the desk. They want to go to the kiosk on that particular type of contact. That's the important part.
So it's really about paying attention to what your customers are looking for right now, and how can you make those adjustments to whether it be the channel or the proactive versus reactive. Do you anticipate any other big changes like that?
Yeah, I mean, long term, I anticipate that that's just going to continue to go that direction. I think I'm a firm believer in effortless experience. I think if you can reduce the amount of perceived effort that a customer has, it will be a better experience and they'll be more loyal and retain themselves as customers to your brand and to your company. So long term, if we can make the answer appear earlier in the customer's journey before they have to do any clicking or calling or picking up the phone or anything like that, it's going to be a better experience for them and your company.
Last question before we end this great conversation. Have you added any additional technology into your contact center, or are you planning to since COVID-19?
We haven't added, we flexed a little bit of a few different things. I would put a plug. We have Assembled, which is a newer workforce management system that we've been doing different multipliers and everything based on what's happening out in the world. I think in the future we're always adding new tech, but I'm not going to give too many more details to that.
That sounds good. Well, I love how agile Harry's has been. I also think our audience is going to appreciate just how empathetic you've been to your audience and to your customers. And so for that, I really thank you. And certainly thank you for spending some time with us. And for everyone who asked questions and has been listening, thank you as well. Please connect with Zendesk and the rest of our community through social. You'll see a few of those channels up on screen. And we really love hearing from you in every way possible. Next week, we'll be chatting with SoFi. It's another not to be missed conversation. And in the meantime, stay safe, be helpful, and we'll chat again soon. So thank you. And thanks again, Nick. It was lovely to chat with you today. Bye, everybody.